One of the things that I think is really important, I think Black people have to make sure we understand this before everyone else does, is that there's a myth about jobs creating wealth. There's a myth that getting a good job should be your top objective in this economy. And that's a myth straight from the depths of hell. It doesn't, it just doesn't work out that way. Jobs don't create financial security. Jobs create the illusion of financial security, right? So it's like the difference between knowing how to defend yourself versus having a bodyguard who says, "I'll protect you." You don't have to know how to protect yourself, right? So what happens is that if you have a company, right? If you had, say, back in the 60s and 70s, where you had, remember back in the day when you had corporations that kept their word and you would go to work every day for 40 years and they would, give you a nice little pension and take good care of you. Anybody remember those days? Those, your grandfather might remember those days. Your mom will remember those days, but those days are gone, right? Corporations, their loyalty disappeared. These hoes ain't loyal, as Chris Brown likes to say. And so, anyway, the idea is that you had the illusion of security that came from corporations, and that to some extent that was a somewhat reliable scenario, kind of, sort of. I mean, it was still there was still risk inherent in all that because you lose your job, you go crazy, you're suddenly in this trauma, you're in this financial shock because you're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive? But back then, say 40 years ago, you had a couple of things that were different than what you have now. At least three things actually. One was just in real dollar terms, prices were lower. Right in the 1970s, a person could get two or three jobs and pay their way through school. Anybody remember those days, right? 1970s, 1980s, tuition was still high, but it wasn't like it is now, right? And then, but it wasn't just tuition; it was like the price of homes and gas and food and everything else, right? The other thing that was true about 40 years ago is you have more stable families. You'd have people that would get married at 22, 23 years old, and they would end up, they would end up working together as a unit, and that natural unity. I keep saying unity. Did I say unity? I want to make sure yeah, you call it the unity, right? The unity piece led to financial security. So unity and security, they're both they're both itties, that they're both connected in that way because the deal is that when you have two people in the household or either you are both making money or one person is, say, taking care of the kids and the other person's out being the breadwinner, and you have this specialization of tasks, you have more security that way. Now you ain't got families. Now you got a bunch of people out here scrambling, just trying to figure it out on their own.